It's Wednesday, November the 13th. Lake level is right at 916, and the water temperature, I hadn't been out since Sunday. We've had actually three really cold days, cold mornings, so I'm sure that water's down in the mid, high 50s right now. But this previous weekend it was 62, 63 degrees. And like I told you at the end of my report last week that I had a couple tournaments I was going to fish Saturday and Sunday. So I guess I can tell you what I did to catch them or to try to catch them, and then go over what I feel was my mistakes. But Friday in practice, my partner, he fished from Kimberling City down towards the Long Creek Bridge, and I fished from Kimberling City to the Mid-James. And we both had the same patterns going. I think he had about 9 or 10 keepers. He figured he probably had 13 or 14 pounds. And I figured probably 6 keepers, and I didn't have as good a quality as he did. So we decided to go to his fish Saturday morning. And we started out throwing a crankbait, and in the first 20 minutes we had 3 keepers on a crankbait, and then we hit a couple docks, and by like 8:15 we had 5 keepers in the boat. We thought, great start. All we got to do is get one more. It was a 6 fish limit, and then try to cull up throughout the day. Well, we had like 6 or 7 hours to improve, but we didn't. The weather kind of changed. It got a little cloudy and it got a little windy, and our dock pattern, for some reason, we didn't hardly catch any short fish the day before. When we went up to his fish, up around Indian Point area, we caught fish in the same docks, but they were all short. And then the bites got fewer and fewer. So, the weather, like I said, the wind kind of picked up. So we'd pick up a wiggle wart and throw it some more. And we were kind of hard-headed because we'd got so many bites on the docks. We figured we needed to get back to the docks. And our bites in them docks were coming, about 18 foot from the stalls and 18 foot to about 10 feet. And a lot of them weren't back all the way back in the stalls. A lot of them were out at the edges, kind of the easy places to get to. That was in the practice day Friday, and even during the tournament, short fish Saturday came in the same places, but no keepers. So we'd pick up a spinnerbait when we'd go by a cedar tree, and about the third cedar tree we went by, we caught one that was, just shy of largemouth, just shy of being a keeper. So we went down, fished another quarter-mile bank, went back to the docks, caught several more shorts, picked up a spinnerbait again, made about 4 or 5 casts, and had a good one come out of a cedar tree, just slapped at the bait, didn't get a hold of it. So anyways, that was the end of that day. So the next day I decided, well, we're going to go to the James River where I had practiced on Friday, and we had 0 keepers out of a dock. We couldn't even hardly get bit out of the docks on the jig. We caught, I think, 1 on an Alabama rig, 1 on a spoon, and 1 keeper on a jig on the outside edge of the dock. But, I did not make the right adjustments. And Friday when I was out in practice, I was only out for about an hour, and something I noticed right off the bat is a lot of the gulls and a lot of the loons were in the center of the deep creeks, which is something I've been talking about. It usually happens when the water starts to cool down, we get into a fall pattern. Them shad have finally grouped up out there deep, and the fish were underneath them. Well, I didn't spend any time, trying to locate the fish out in the centers of them pockets because I thought I had such a good solid dock pattern to, going into the tournament. Well, Saturday at the end of that tournament, we started idling around, and the schools of shad that we found in these creeks were massive. Some of the bait fish was from 20 feet to 40 foot, but with only about an hour or so left in the tournament, we didn't have a whole lot of time to locate the fish. If we'd had a few more hours, we probably would have been able to fill out our limit. And normally that's not the way that you're going to win a tournament out there, because mainly a lot of them fish are Kentuckies. But when the fishing's as tough as what it is right now, where 12, 13 pounds is winning tournaments, that's real doable out there on them deep fish. But I guess to make a long story short, I was kind of hard-headed. The bites that we were getting around the docks were a little bit better quality, and we stayed with it too long. And a lot of times, like I tell you people, that when whatever you are doing isn't working, after a couple hours you need to make a change. Well, that's the mistake I made. I didn't make the change, especially the first day when the weather conditions were changing. I didn't change with it. So, make a long story short, I messed up and made some mistakes. But what we were gonna, at the end of the report last week, I told you we was going to talk a little bit about the Alabama rig, how I'm rigging it, what kind of baits I'm throwing. Now, with these fish schooling or getting grouped up in the middle of these creeks, that's also going to get that Alabama rig bite on. A lot of different ways you can catch them fish out in the center of the creeks. You can drop shot them, spoon, grub, gets it. A lot of times they're anywhere from 25 to as deep as 40 foot. Or you can take an Alabama rig and let it drop that deep and just reel it real slow through the schools of bait and under the bait. I throw several different Alabama rigs. They've got here's a young version that's got the blades on it. Here's another one similar to that. It's got a little bit bigger blades. And the one I've got tied on doesn't have any blades. Well, my choice between the ones with the blades and without, normally if the water's real clear, I don't feel that you need the flash of the blades on the A-rig. I like to go with the ones without the blades. If the water's got some stain, if I'm fishing up one of the river arms, then I'm more apt to go to one of the A-rigs that's got the blades on it. As far as the trailers, the water's real clear, I like to stay with the shad pattern baits. And if I'm not fishing around a whole lot of timber, I like to fish them with open hooks. And I do mix up the baits quite a bit. One of probably the best baits to throw is a Swim Fluke Junior. I've got 2 of those on my dummy rigs. Now in Missouri, you can only have 3 baits with hooks. And so like with this 5 rig setup here, 2 of them don't have any hooks. And I'll show you in just a minute how I hook them up. Now the 2 I do have with hooks over here, these are a swim bait that my buddy makes. He hand pours these. It's Danger Lures is who makes these. He does an awesome job. It's real similar to a Kitech, but I wanted something that was a little bit smaller than a standard Kitech. Now I do have my Kitech on the longer wire. I also like an A-rig that's got the center wire longer. 90% of your bites are going to come on that longer wire hook. And the reason you just don't cut the hook off on these dummy baits is you don't want any weight up here. Because when you're fishing this bait with no weight up here, the 2 dummies are going to be up on top. The ones with the hooks are going to be down. The one with the long wire is going to be the furthest one back. And I think where the fish are coming up from behind it, that's the one you find you get most of your bites on. Now on this particular rig here, I was throwing it around a lot of timber. And if you'll notice, I've got them hooked up weedless so I don't get stuck as much. If I'm fishing open water, like out in the center of the creeks and where there's not a whole lot of trees on the bluff ends, I like to fish open hook if I can get by with it. A little bit better hookups. If I'm around the trees, then I'll rig one up weedless. Now with these hooks here, this is just a swim bait hook. But what I've done is I've put like a little hitchhiker right up in the front here of the hook. And I'll show you what I mean by that hitchhiker. These little hitchhikers here are what I use on the dummy baits. It just clips onto the swivel right there and you screw your bait on. Now what you can do is take it on these swim bait hooks and just hook it on the front of the hook. Here it is. On the front of the hook, right in there, so that you can screw your bait in, then you can hook it up weedless. That works real well for me. Another thing you can do the same way you can rig it is you can take just a regular old shaky head, screw your bait on, rig it up weedless like that, and then clip it on your swivel right on the A-rig. Now, the Kitech bait that I'll use, and you'll notice on this other one here, I've got just little grubs on it. I've got 4-inch grubs on the dummy baits, and I've got a 5-inch grub on 2 of the ones with the hook, Then I've got the Swim Fluke Junior on the center of longer wire. It doesn't hurt at all to mismatch it. But I usually want, one of the reasons I got the smaller baits up here is also with no weight, so they'll stay up on top. The Kitech, like on this rig that I've got right here, it's a little bit bigger bait than the hand pours that my buddy's pouring up for me. Now, I like a little bit bigger bait on the center wire. You know, like I say, there again, depends if I'm fishing it around timber or not. And this particular one here is made by Pig Sticker. It's got a lot lighter wires. Now, I really like this rig because when you're reeling it, you stop and start your retrieve. When you start your retrieve, the bait's pulling a little tighter. When you stop with the lighter wire, they flare out. Versus like this Yum one where the wire is pretty stiff, it stays where you put it. I think it gives the baits a lot more flair and a lot more action. The only drawback to this one is a lot of times when you cast it with these lighter wires, these baits will get hooked up on each other. So I think you give up a little bit of action if you throw one of the ones with the stiffer wires, but your baits don't get tangled up. But normally you can feel when the bait gets tangled up, so you can, you know, reel it up and make another retrieve. Now, like I say, with this weather getting cold, that crankbait bite that, you know, we've had for the last month or so, that water gets down in that mid-50s, it's going to get better. Along with the A-rig bite's going to get better. You know, the deep bite's going to get better, and then the real shallow bite's going to get better. So I'm really looking forward to fishing, do nothing but, you know, pick up for the next 2-3 weeks. We should be in some of our best fall fishing within the next few weeks. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.